Hey guys, I've been wanting to do a video for a while on my experience with the Mirena IUD. The purpose of this video is twofold. The first purpose is if there is somebody out there who is possibly considering getting the Mirena, I hope that after you hear my experience that you would at least think twice about it, if not completely change your mind. And the second purpose for this video is if there is anybody out there, well, for the many people out there who are going through what I went through, and you're thinking maybe that you're imagining it or you're going crazy or there might be something else wrong with you, I wanted to take a minute to make this video to tell you that you are not going crazy and that what you experienced or are experiencing is very real and that you're not alone, and there are support websites out there for you. And I just want to tell a little bit about myself first, just to give a background. I am a thankfully, very healthy person. I've never had any major sicknesses or injuries. I had a knee surgery. That was it. That was the extent of my 36 years of life of just being a very healthy person and taking my health for granted. In 2010, in October of 2010, I had my fourth child, and my husband and I had decided that we were done having kids, so we were looking for some form of birth control. I suggested to my midwife that delivered me that I was considering getting my tubes tied or doing something permanent, and she advised me against that and said that since it was something so permanent, she would like me to consider maybe doing something that wasn't as permanent, just to make sure I was completely sure, which I felt like I was pretty sure, but I like the idea of not doing something completely irreversible or permanent. So she suggested the Mirena IUD to me. Now, midwives generally tend to be more conservative as far as medicines and devices go. So I listened to her advice. I really liked her a lot. I still think she's a great person, but maybe just ill-informed. I hope and not purposefully obtuse. But so I made the appointment to get the Mirena IUD placed. I took the paperwork that she gave me and I read all of it. There were 2 pamphlets and I read both of them. Every word. I didn't just skim it. I read every word. I went in. My appointment was on March 22nd, 2011. I went in for my appointment and I had to sign a release form. And the thing that I liked that they said about the Mirena was that there were virtually no side effects, very, very low hormones. You would have it in for 5 years and you wouldn't have a period. Well, that sounds great. All of that sounds really good. And I read the pamphlets, and the side effects listed were very, very minimal. And I haven't had problems with birth control before, so I just figured I would be a perfect candidate. So I got the Mirena placed, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but I felt like maybe something wasn't quite right during placement because there was a lot of hushed and harsh whispering between the doctor that placed it and the nurse, and when they were done with the placement, there was quite a bit of blood, and they told me that I would feel a little bit crampy, but I wasn't prepared for the numbness that I felt in my right leg immediately. I just kept stamping my foot, and I thought, that's really weird, but I'm sure it'll go away. I went and ran a couple errands. My mom was watching my baby because my kids were in school, and went to work that night and woke up the next morning with an excruciating headache, right back here in the base of my head. And I've never had a headache like that before. I just imagined it's what people feel when they're having an aneurysm. It was just like something was exploding, something electrical. I cannot even describe to anybody. There's no way that I could possibly describe how bad it hurt. But and I hate to take medicine, but I took some ibuprofen. I went to work. When I was at work that night, I started to feel this weird numbness in my right arm. It just felt numb and it felt kind of weak. I felt like I couldn't quite make a fist. Uh, I went home, went to bed, woke up. The next day, same thing. By Thursday, I the headache was so severe. I was taking ibuprofen like every 6 or 8 hours, which is really unusual for me. Drinking a lot of water and honestly, never even connecting it. Never, never. The only thing I ever thought was strange was the numbness on my leg, and then I just forgot about it. Um, and never, and I'm sure, I mean, there are tons of people out there who had so many weird symptoms and they just never attributed them to the Mirena. But, so this goes on for about a week. I remember distinctly that Thursday night, 2 days after getting it placed, we went on a walk. And I remember being really quiet the whole time we were on a walk. It was my husband and my 4 kids and I. We went on a walk. And I remember just being really quiet, and my husband asked me if I was okay, and I just felt really weird. I just felt like something wasn't right. My balance felt off. I felt like I was very aware of every time my foot hit the concrete. My feet felt weird. All my limbs felt weird and shaky, and I just felt off, and I just thought something is not right. By the next week, by the next Tuesday, I'd had it in a week now. At work, I had a lot more episodes of my arm feeling weak, and I actually dropped a couple things at work. And after work, I called my mom and asked her if I could come over and talk to her for a few minutes. I went over and we sat down and had a cup of coffee together, and I just started crying, and I told her that something's wrong with me. I feel like I'm dying. Something is not right with me. And she asked me what was wrong, and I described how I'd been having really bad headaches, and by this point I'd been having vision disturbances. My eyes would get really blurry, and I would have a hard time focusing. The weakness in my arm and the balance, the feeling like I was walking on a ship, was pretty much all the time now. I also was having ringing in my ears. I would hear a ringing sound. When I would stand up, it's like the whole room would spin. And I just knew in my gut that something was not right. But I honestly just never, this has been a whole week now, never attributed it to the Mirena. The next day, so that night my mom said, well, what do you think has been different? What do you think it could be? And I said, I have no idea. I'm just having all these weird symptoms. They don't seem to be related. My heart's racing. And I said, maybe if there's something wrong with my heart and I'm not getting enough oxygen, it's causing these headaches, it's causing circulation problems. I just don't know. So my mom said, I'm sure you'll be fine, which is what I tell my kids too. And we had a word of prayer together, and I went home and I went to work the next day, could not stop thinking about it. What did I do different? And all of a sudden, ding. I was like, that's the only thing I could think of. That is the only thing I could think of that is any different in my routine. I don't take medicine. Nothing's different. And I'm thinking, but surely something placed for birth control wouldn't have all these side effects. But I just Googled. I Googled Mirena side effects, and oh my word. I just could not believe, and I just started crying. I started crying for several reasons. One, I was so relieved to finally find out, and I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was the problem. But I also started crying because I was so angry that I'd been feeling this way, and it could have been helped. So that was Wednesday, the 30th, March the 30th, so 8 days later. And I called my doctor's office, and I told them that I wanted to have the Mirena removed, and they asked me why, and I told them some of my symptoms, and they said they would talk to the doctor and they would call me back. They called me back within like 30 minutes and said, the doctor said that if you are having horrible headaches and these weird symptoms, you need to go to the emergency room. It's not the Mirena. Well, so I said, okay, and I got off the phone and I talked to my mom about it, and she said, they can't tell you you can't get it out. If you want it out, you call them back and insist. So I called back and I insisted. They said they could get me in the next morning. Okay, this is the part that I'm really going to condense, because this part of the story takes all day, and clearly I'm not going to tell you something that's going to take hours and hours and hours. But long story short about being in the doctor's office, basically, I was there for hours. I went, they could not get it out. They couldn't find it. They tried several times. They brought in different people. I could tell right away something was wrong. They said, oh, the doctor that placed it must have cut the strings too short. We can't find it. I had to go to ultrasound. They finally located that it was, in fact, in my body, but it wasn't where it was supposed to be. It had gotten embedded in my uterus. They also discovered that I had a cyst while they were doing the ultrasound. I've never had a cyst on my uterus before. They tried again after doing ultrasound. So by this point, I'd been there for maybe three and a half hours. And one of my good friends was watching my baby. They told me they weren't going to be able to do it, but if I would come back later that afternoon. And I said, well, I have another appointment. And they said, well, don't cancel your appointment. Just do the best you can to get here. I did cancel my appointment because it was important to me. I was leaving the next day to go out of town to visit my brothers in Arizona. So I canceled my other appointment. I came in there. Basically, they had me, and this part is more about my doctor's office than the Mirena, but I honestly think the whole thing's connected. For whatever reason, doctors are not willing to admit that there's a problem with the Mirena. And I got moved from one waiting room to another, back to the other one, was there the second time for an hour and a half for them to come out and tell me they were really sorry, but they had run out of time and they just weren't going to be able to do anything. I basically went a little bit hysterical on them and maybe even a little bit psychotic and started telling them I wasn't leaving until they took it out. I wasn't going on my trip with this. And they told me that I could either go to the emergency room and have them do it or come back. When they called the emergency room said they wouldn't be able to get me until after midnight. My flight was leaving first thing the next morning. I just decided to schedule to have it done when I got back from Arizona. The whole time I was in Arizona, I had a few moments or hours of respite, which I was very, very thankful for. But the majority of the time, while I was visiting with my siblings, who are my best friends, incidentally, and who I get so excited to visit, I couldn't even conjure up the energy to have a good time because I was depressed, lethargic. My head hurt like crazy. My eyes hurt. I wore sunglasses the whole time, which was fine because I was in Arizona. But I was miserable. My balance was off. I just felt really, really scared. And I know to look at me, people couldn't tell. They might have just thought I was having a bad day. But I can't tell you how scary it is to know that everyone looks at you and thinks you're fine, but you know inside that something's not fine. And I was laying downstairs on the couch because my baby had a cough and I didn't want to wake everyone up. And I kept having these blinding flashes of light going through my head. I've never experienced anything like it. And I thought, someone's going to come downstairs and find me dead on this couch and my baby's going to be crying. That's how positive I was from the immense pain that I was feeling, that I was dying. So I get back from my trip from Arizona. I get back on a Monday, and Tuesday morning I had to be there first thing for a scheduled hysteroscopy, which basically meant that they had to put me to sleep to take the Mirena out. So I went to the appointment on April the 5th, Tuesday, April the 5th, and I had the procedure done. I remember when I was coming out of anesthesia and being kind of groggy, I heard my husband ask the doctor who did the hysteroscopy how long it would take for the hormones to get out of my system. And she said probably 5 to 7 days. Although she, even after the surgery, firmly stated that she hoped that I felt better, but she just wanted to make sure my husband knew that my side effects were not from the Mirena. So she just clarified that. Speaking of things being out of your system, it's important for me to say at this moment that the little canister, if you will, that holds the hormone, which is called levonorgestrel, that's what it's called. The canister is made out of silicone, and it's supposed to hold hormones that will last up to 5 years. Well, what I'm not sure about is how is it smart enough to know how much to release. For instance, I'm 5'1" and 112 pounds. how would that, how would my body absorb that the same as someone who is 6'3" and 200 pounds? I'm not sure, and I'm not sure how much of it my body absorbed, but based on my side effects, it wouldn't surprise me if there was a malfunction in the device and my body absorbed all of it, if not most of it, or most of it, if not all of it. Um, anyway, so I went home with the hope that this thing's out now. Now I'm just going to be better and everything's going to be great. Honestly, the time after I had it out for the next probably 3 months was, I mean, I can't even think of an adjective to say how much worse it was than my time of having it in, of less than 2 weeks. But I'm just going to really briefly just tell you a list, and I should have done this in alphabetical orders to make it easier, but I'm just going to tell you a list for the next 3 months of symptoms that I had as a direct result of the Mirena, that sudden influx of hormones into my system and then the removal and my body just kind of going crazy. I had, as I already said, horrible headaches, weakness and numbness in my arms and legs, tingling feeling and vibrating like there was something, like a buzzing, kind of like there was a phone in your pocket, but I would feel that like inside my skin. My face would buzz and twitch. I had vision disturbances. I had ringing in my ears. I had extreme hair loss. My hair is just now starting to get back to normal. I had my jaw would get really tight and lock up. My mouth would be really dry, and then other times it would be like crazy excess saliva. My balance was horrible. I had probably the scariest symptom I had is when I would lie down at night, my leg, most of my symptoms were in my right side. My right leg, I know this sounds crazy, and I tell you what this experience has done for me. It's made me a lot more empathetic to people going through things that you can't see. Because if I would have heard someone say this, I would have been very skeptical. And you can be skeptical if you want. I have nothing to gain from saying this, but my right leg would just jerk. There was definitely something neurological going on with me. My right leg would just... And so then, of course, like everyone does, you go and even after I had the Mirena taken out and I knew that that was what had been causing my symptoms and was still causing my symptoms, I go and I Google vision disturbances, not having control of your limbs, headaches, weakness in muscles, and of course I diagnosed myself with MS, and I'm freaking out because now I have MS or something terrible like that. So I go to a general practice doctor, and just kind of for peace of mind, he tells me that he has already that year, it's April, and he's not an OBGYN, he's just a GP, has already that year taken out 6 Mirenas from women who are having identical situations as mine. And he told me that even though he could not scientifically or on paper tell me why it was happening, clearly he could see that it was happening. And that was just so nice to have some validation from someone that, one, I'm not making this up and I'm not crazy. So he told me it might take a while for the hormones to get out of my system, but just for my peace of mind and for his peace of mind, he sent me to a neurologist in Wilmington. I went to the neurologist. He was very, very thorough, stopped me after everything I said and was typing it into his computer, and just very, very thorough, asked me a million questions, but basically told me at the end it wasn't the Mirena and that he wanted me to get tested for MS. And he had this very pitying look on his face and, you know, told me that he was sorry I'd gone through this, but I really needed to get tested for MS. I had to go to the hospital and get a brain scan, a brain MRI, and I had to have tests done at the neurologist's office, and those all came back fine. The brain scan came back fine. No lesions, nothing. Nothing to tell me why I'm having all these neurological symptoms, but no, I went to a cardiologist for all the heart palpitations I was having and for the shortness of breath, and I had to do a stress test. Everything came back fine with that. Long story short, all this test, all this blood work, I'm in perfect health. There's nothing wrong with me. Nothing wrong with me. Okay? Well, I know, and all the girls who have gone through this know, that it was the Mirena. And if you're even considering getting it, if you hear someone that's considering, please share my story. They don't have to watch the whole video. I realize it's lengthy. I realize if you haven't been through this, you might not be very sympathetic. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't have been either. This journey has taught me a lot about empathizing with people. Just because you can't see their pain or understand it doesn't mean it's not real. And those people who know me well know that I am a very healthy person. And even doing this video is hard for me because I'm a very proud person, and I want everyone to think and to know that I'm tough. And it takes a lot to knock me down, but I tell you what, this not only knocked me down, I mean, it just completely took the life right out of me for a while. And before I end, I just want to touch on one other thing. Besides, I talked about a lot of my physical complications with this, but I had a lot of emotional and mental complications with this too. And I wish that I could get that period, the really rough period, probably about 6 months back, because I was not a very good wife, and I was not a very good friend, and I was not a very good mom to my kids. I was either depressed, laying on the couch, and lethargic. I would go through the motions. I would make supper, but then I wouldn't eat. My kids would notice. They'd ask me why I wasn't hungry, why I didn't want to eat. I was depressed. I didn't want to feel bad anymore. I was tired of feeling that way, and I would lose my temper really quickly. I would lose my cool, and my worst and most, times that I regret were those times I just would completely lose my cool over something that they would spill their drink or something silly like that, and I would just completely go ballistic. And I just remember seeing the looks on their faces like, what is wrong with my mom? And I'm so thankful. I cannot tell you how thankful I am. It's been now, I guess about 19 months. Let's see. Yeah, it's been 19 months. And since I had the Mirena, and my assessment is that 95% of the time I feel 95% better. I still have occasional, with my cycles, I have occasional headaches. I still have occasional, my eyes feel like they're not ever quite right. Like, I wear sunglasses all the time, and people probably just think I'm trying to be cool, and that's fine. But that's fine because I have like 10 different pair. So I just would urge you to seriously think about it. If you're thinking about getting the Mirena, just seriously think about it. And there are a couple websites that I'm going to tell you about. There's one called curezone.com. If you go to curezone.com/Mirena, there's a support group there. And there's also one called Ban Mirena IUD on Facebook. And on the Curezone Mirena website, my username is God is my refuge. And on the Facebook one, it's under my name. And I just wanted to tell you that you're not alone, and if you're going through this, you're not alone. And if you are not going through this, or if you know of someone who's considering it, please just tell them to at least think about it. Don't just read the pamphlets. Go to the websites and read. Just Google Mirena side effects and see the unbelievable number of hits you'll get from that. Thanks for taking the time to watch this, and God bless you.